Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And in this video, we're going to travel to the beautiful Isle of Bute. But you can file this video under, I suppose, the bleeding obvious. You see, Police Scotland are running out of money. The SNP refuse to uplift their budget. They haven't got the cash to do so. They've misspent it tens of millions, hundreds of millions on independence issues. Nothing to do with actually doing their day job. And consequently, police resources are stretched very thin. And one of the upshots of this is that throughout the night on the Isle of Bute, there is effectively no policing. It is the officers, I think, finish about 11 o'clock at night. They don't start till 6 in the morning. There is an emergency phone line which will wake up an officer who's not on duty, but he is on call. But, you know, by the time you've rung him, he gets up, he's put his clothes on, he's got in his car, he's driven, you know, it's pointless. So, what, of course, is the upshot of having no police force between 11 and 6? Well, it's exactly what you think it is going to be. A 25% increase in crime straight away. Because people know they can get away with it. Let's have a look at this article and see why the people of Bute are being so badly let down by the SNP and their inability to fund a basic service like policing. Here goes. So, Bute police trial saw a 25% rise in crime call-outs in July. And there it is. Bute. Beautiful island. I've only ever been there once. It is a stunningly beautiful place. Reports of crimes rose by 55% during a policing trial on a Scottish island that slashed overnight cover figures show. This is what happens. You take the police away, then the criminals know there's no police. They're free to act. Police Scotland launched a new regime in May, putting officers on call rather than on the beat from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. My apologies, I said 11 till 6. It's midnight till 8. And from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. at weekends. Emergency calls were directed to staff at a Glasgow call centre who would then alert local officers to respond. What on earth is going on? Of course, these guys are asleep. You've got to get up and get ready, whatever. The trial, which reduced the number of shifts from 5 to 3, sparked an angry backlash from the community amid concern that crime rates would increase, and it was cut short. And have crime rates increased? Oh boy, yes. Oh, most definitely they did. It is understood the model was dependent on officers volunteering to be on call, and only half agreed to do it. Police data from June and July, and I don't blame them for not volunteering. I mean, it's not their issue. It's up to the SNP government and the Justice Minister to ensure that there's enough funding there to pay for more officers so that there is a full cover. This isn't down to the officers. Anyway, officers were called out to 56 incidents compared with the 36 the previous year when police were on shift rather than on call at home. The biggest rise was seen in disturbances, 10 compared to 4. But house break-ins, 0 became 2. Assaults, nuisance noise complaints and vandalism also saw a rise. At a public meeting held earlier this week, a police sergeant is said to have told residents that July's crime figures were up 25% this year. So 25% increase on the previous July. The rise was attributed to a greater number of tourists coming over that month due to an increase in the number of one-off events being held. That sounds like spin and bullshit. The fact is, there was no police, and that is what the problem is. Gary Steele, a retired police sergeant who spent 17 years in the senior role on the island, described the trial as an open invitation to criminals. And of course, they will thank you for that invitation, and they will fill their boots. They know there's no police between 12 and 8. They're going to commit burglaries, steal things, damage things. They're going to act with complete impunity. There's no one going to stop them. That's the end of it. He said it was probably not possible to draw many firm conclusions from this summer's crime data. Oh, I think there is. He said the large increase in disturbance calls is interesting. He said there's no way to know exactly where or when they were, but a rise in disturbances at pub closings or late takeaways could have been anticipated due to no patrolling police presence. Of course it is. That's half the problem. You can stick a police car outside a busy pub. People are going to come out and see the police car. They're not going to be dicks, are they? He said it is his understanding that the trial was cut short because it wasn't working. Yeah, and that's the whole point. When they saw the massive increase in crime and they realised it was a fail. He said, from what I gather, the whole trial was dependent on volunteers. And only about 50% volunteered to do it. And I don't blame them, as I say. Well done to those who stopped. Because those who didn't volunteer have now caused the trial to end. And therefore, the SNP will be forced to put more money into policing on Bute. But where will they take it from? It's a bugger, isn't it? He says, I think as it's progressed, some withdrew from it because it just wasn't working. The reason it was stopped was because they couldn't do it. The officers weren't willing to do it. I think that came from the fact that it just wasn't working. And it won't work unless you actually have officers on the beat, out and about. Being on call is nothing. Scottish Conservative Shadow Justice Secretary Russell Findlay suggested the crime data confirmed the need to restore overnight police patrols. Well, say you ain't so. I mean, it's so bleeding obvious, isn't it? Police Scotland is still evaluating the results of the trial. I think it's obvious to a blind man what the results of the trial were. It was a complete and utter fail by any metric. A new Chief Inspector has been appointed on Bute, replacing Samantha Glasgow, who said the existing overnight shift system created unacceptable risks for police, and went so far to say her staff were afraid to go out on duty at night. I think you need to hire better policemen. There's no way a policeman should be afraid to go out at night. Jan Herwood, who attended the public meeting, said the new police chief, Alan Dixon, had given the local community and council reassurances that locals would be consulted about any future decisions, but consulted before or after the decisions have been made. This is the trouble. She said a local sergeant attended to demonstrate the future intention was transparency and communication. Don't make me laugh. No such thing as transparency and communication, not with the SNP and certainly not with the police. The sergeant did confirm local police had gone back to previous rotas and the night shift had been restored. Well, that's good news. A few small things had already been introduced to demonstrate the communication commitment. Apparently, a weekly police report was sent to the Bute local paper, which stopped. And this has been reintroduced and will start again. And good, and if they name and shame everyone who's arrested and does crimes and things like that, and let it be known, it kind of shames people into stop doing it, doesn't it? Superintendent Neil McDougall said, we explored an alternative policing model on Bute to test our response to the community's needs and improve the well-being of officers on the island. And it failed. It failed spectacularly. And he's gone about, we're assessing it and all this. But there are so few officers now. There's so few policemen. I mean, there was a thing where there was 2 cars at night on a night shift. And there was 2 cars covering the whole of mainland Scotland. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. He said, the officer said to Herald, the area he worked for, often had as few as 7 police covering a population of 250,000 people. He said 3 or 4 good cops a month were quitting and around 40 officers have been absent with stress-related illness over the past couple of years. The whistleblower said he sympathised with islands and officers involved in the 3-month pilot. And then finished it. We've covered this last bit here. Figures show the police numbers in Scotland have fallen by 634 from the minimum of 17,234 set when the National Force was formed 10 years ago. It should be nearer 30,000. In fact, actually, it should be nearer 50,000, shouldn't it? It should be nearer 50,000. You need a lot more police. And especially in rural communities. Rural policing is a joke. Anyway, I shall round off there and come up. But it is just another example of another fail from the SNP where they can't be bothered to put funding in to provide an adequate police service. And then when they try to save money, it just increases crime by a massive amount. Okay, anyone surprised? Is anyone at all surprised that actions by the SNP government have resulted in more crime for rural areas with fewer police and with more danger to the public as they attempt to save the money they're not getting because they keep pissing it away on independence-minded projects? They are damaging and damaging everything, and they are literally endangering people's lives. But they don't care, do they? They'll let people die if it furthers the cause of independence. That's how bad these people are, and it needs to stop. You need to vote anyone else in. Somebody, anybody, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you've seen here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and if you're on Bute, lock your doors. Bye.